Freedom is calling on the other side of the wind. So we keep on walking, though it tears through our skin. Feeling like a warrior that's not afraid to bleed. The fight inside's in all of us, so we won't concede. You can't hold us down, no. You can't hold us down, down, down. You can't hold us down, no. You can't hold us down, 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 yeah. Down, 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 can't hold us down. Every day's a battlefield between the light and the dark. Angels and demons try to tear us apart. Heavy on our shoulders is the weight of the world, but it makes us stronger, though the pain it burns. You can't hold us down, we never give up. Walking through the fire and the flame can't hold us down. 'Cause when the going gets tough, the tearing through the metal chains can't hold us down, 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 yeah. Down, 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 can't hold us down, 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 yeah. Down, 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 can't hold us down. You 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 can't hold us down. We never give up. Walking through the fire and the flame can't hold us down. 'Cause when the going gets tough, we're tearing through the metal chains. Can't hold us down, 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 yeah. Down, 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 can't hold us down, 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 yeah. Down, 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 can't hold us down. Can't hold us down.
Well, hello, and welcome to Talking Normal. And we are here tonight. I'm so thankful that you have tuned in. I know there are a lot out there that are at the Americans for Equal Share Parenting event in Springfield, Illinois. We love you. We appreciate you and that you're out there and that you're participating. I know that I had several things come up. This week has been nutty. So as always, I have my tag team partner here, Miss Rosemary Dalton. How are you doing, Rosemary?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good, doing very, very good. I know it's been very, very busy for you as well. It's been a crazy, hectic week, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been.
Yeah, it looks like you've got quite a bit of a lag going on. I'm not sure why.
I have no clue. I can go and sign out and come back in.
Yeah, that's fine. I know we've got some other participants here as well that are probably going to be coming in as well. Oh, there we go. There you go. That's much better. Are you hearing me right now?
I hear you just fine.
Okay. It's just got quite a bit of a lag. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's a lot going on out there. Big time stuff. We saw that Gary Jacobs and Carlos Rivera were actually on This Is Life with Lisa Ling. Was amazing stuff. Congratulations to those guys. They represented the movement very, very well. Very appreciative for them and all of their efforts out there. But it brought some things to life, Rosemary, that there are a lot of people out there who either haven't seen their kids in a very, very long time, or they're just being separated from their children for whatever reason. And we thought tonight would be a great opportunity that we could have call-in guests call in and talk about, if you could say one thing to your children, what would it be and why? I think that it's a great aspect. But as always, again, when we have minor children involved, and maybe in open cases, it's probably in our best interest to make sure that we're just saying their initials and not their names. Okay. So we're, you know,
It's in the best interest. Even if it's a
yes,
closed case, if they're minor children, they should use initials, period.
yes,
Don't expose the children, don't exploit the children.
that's
We're not
exactly
trying
right.
to do that. You want to get your message out, that's fine. But, you know, don't use their names, use their
Yes,
initials.
use their initials.
I YouTube and stuff like that. What I would say to my son, I would call him MK. You know, MK, if you hear me, please find me. You know, those kind of things. Those kind of breadcrumbs crumbled everywhere. You know, so these
Yeah.
videos are really good because these videos, this radio show does go on YouTube as much as it works on everything else. So this message is forever because it's on the internet. So if these people, any parents have to want to say something, or even grandparents, aunts, uncles, you love these kids, you want to say what you want to say to these children, please use the initials, and please just get your message clear, because these things are forever. So when people are looking and they're finding these things, they'll use it as a treasure. You can be able to keep it and have it for a treasure. You can help find your kids that way.
Yeah. And you're still breaking up quite a bit here, but I'm gonna say that I know that it's been such a busy week, and I do have some very, very exciting news that will be happening tomorrow. So I want you to stay with us until the very end, because I'm going to make that announcement. And when I say it's huge, it's huge. I mean, it's big. It's monumental for us out here in the movement. And I think it's going to bring a whole lot more awareness and opportunity to work in conjunction with each other. And that's all I can kind of say with it, you know, for right now. I think it's huge. We've been talking about it for a long time, and it's going to finally happen tomorrow. So awesome stuff. So why don't we do this? We're going to start getting in here to some phone calls right away, or logins that we have. Remember, you guys do need to log in so that way we can get you on. Unfortunately, right now, unless I know far in advance, I can't invite you. I have figured out a way finally in order for us to take phone calls, but I need to know far in advance. That way, hey, I'm going to be calling in, and here's whatever, and then I can send you an email that has a link finally to allow you to do this. But let's go ahead and bring in, if we could, and if it'll allow us to. Being very, very slow. There we go. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in Alexis here. Alexis, how are you doing this evening? Hello, Alexis.
I haven't had a really stressful day, but it's okay. Yes.
Okay. Make sure your volume's all the way up on your phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's on my computer. I'm supposed to talk on the phone.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely make sure you. Yeah. Make sure you speak up into that microphone so we can hear you. But yeah, I know that you had contacted me and several others in reference to your story. You've been through heck and back, and give us kind of just a slight explanation without naming a child's name. Just make sure you use their initials, because I know that your case is still kind of a slightly open kind of deal here. So for your protection and theirs, let's just use their initials. But number one,
Well, I mean, it is, but it's not. I mean,
right, right.
right? Yeah, yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
kind of give an explanation as to where your case is and what you've gone through real quick, and then we'll allow you to say what you'd like to say to your children if they could hear you.
So
You
you
still,
want me to say where we're like where we are right now in the whole thing?
well, yeah,
Is
and
that what
kind
you're
of,
talking about?
yeah, kind of
I
your
mean,
case.
right now, my my case is, I mean, we go back to March 2017, but really, if we get the when we get the paperwork from the second dependency, actually, we really realized it actually started in 2 months before that, and I wasn't even aware because I think I was set up.
Okay.
But now they've filed two dependencies, dismissed both of them. They had allegations after allegations, never offered me one service.
Mhm.
I offered to do random UAs. I passed 5 of them, and I'm still considered a drug addict to them. And at the end of the first one, they tried to say they lost 2 of them and didn't know where the results were when I was trying to match up my paperwork at work.
Right.
So, anyways, they came back, they were clean. And I was summoned to Chelan County Superior Court in June for a felony charge of something that happened in 2016 that now happened because of CPS. When they came to my house, they made me, the social worker, the detectives surrounded me, and she slid over the paper to sign my rights, my medical records over. And so everything, mental health counseling, was all used against me, like when I was stressed out because of putting my son through tutoring so he didn't have to repeat second grade. Everything was used against me. And then this charge that I pled guilty to because my attorney said I had to get my son back, now I'm told that it's not a felony and it's a misdemeanor, and I don't know how to even get the heck out of this.
Right.
I'm just like so overwhelmed. I just don't know. I mean, I feel like, it's like we spent all this money, my family, and then when they came back, it took them 2 months later after I was sentenced because they used this all against me. It's like, well, what was the point of that then? Why spend all that money? I mean, this attorney did nothing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and just
I'm
because,
very familiar with your cases because yourself and someone else kind of brought that before me, and I kind of reviewed this a little bit, and I was like, this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's one of the same things where we see
it doesn't.
DSS and DCFS and all of the acronyms get involved in a custody situation, and it's just wrong. And
Yep.
them
That's
interjecting
exactly
themselves
what
in
happened.
custody.
I had to go to court. Yep.
Yeah.
I when they came the first time, they changed jurisdiction to Lincoln County, which was like closer for my ex-husband because he's in the military, and so he didn't have to travel so far. So we have this hearing in Lincoln County, and the judge said no adequate cause. He said she's not using drugs. I passed all the UAs. It was kids. You grab kids by the coat, things happen. It was a tiny, like a scratch. Oh my gosh, But anyways, so when they came back the second time last November after I pled guilty to the felony, I had to go now in Spokane and do it all over again. And now now he has custody when I've had custody his whole life.
Exactly.
I mean, I've raised my son, and I've coached soccer, and I've worked 2 jobs, and I've done everything, and it's killing me right now.
Yeah, and I understand it, and it's absolutely nutty and crazy, and everything sometimes doesn't make sense on what the family court does, and so we're working with you. Yeah, and I know that you've got another advocate out there that we greatly respect working with you right now, and doing a wonderful job, and hopefully trying to explain how things are working, why they're working, and the way they are, and then how do we evolve this into something that is going to be on the positive for you. But in the meantime, if there's anything that you would like to say to your child or children right now, what would it be and why?
Just that he's my whole heart, and this whole thing just made me somebody I don't even know who I am anymore. Because when you have a child, you think, I'm gonna be there every day and watch them, go to school every day and put them in bed every night. And then I did that all, for 7 years. Now it's just gone, and now we're just supposed to move out of state. I mean, I don't feel whole without him. But I just wanted him to know that I love him, and I'm always thinking about him every day, like 24/7, and I don't do anything for him. He's my life, and it's really hard.
Yeah, I understand.
I just love him, and I'm always, I'm never gonna stop fighting for him. It will keep, if I gotta move to Oklahoma, I'll move to Oklahoma.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very, very great, and I that's kind of really what we were looking for out of this is to really express the fact that we love our children. We should not have to go through an adversarial system that pits one parent against the other, and the system basically takes the right away of a parent to a child, and it's wrong. And we need to change the system. How do we do that?
Right.
We're going to get into that much more because there's a whole lot that we can do. Can we change everything overnight? Absolutely not. We didn't get here overnight, but we can build blocks to change the system. And
I do have a suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alexis, if you would go through grief counseling, it'll help.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
That's one of my
I would
things
really
need.
back that
right
up.
now, I'm just trying to get a place closer.
But get some grief counseling or trauma therapy, something that will help you through this. And it doesn't have to be through the state or anything like that. It could be somebody that's not contracted.
Oh no.
Just get some therapeutic help so you can cope through this, because this is a painful. I can hear your tears. I can feel it. So with me feeling it, you need some kind of support and some kind of coping mechanism, so they'll help.
Right. And that's another thing that we're really trying to do behind the scenes. I know that there's a lot of distractors from this, that are doing whatever, and that's fine. Do whatever. I don't care. But this movement is not really a movement, and it doesn't need to be a movement until it becomes a community. And that community needs to be people leaning on other people to get through this. This is a tough time. You're not going to get through this on your own, and no one's going to help you unless you ask for help. Hey, I can't do this on my own. Can you tell me what you did that got you through this?
That was the thing. There was people that really stepped up to help me. I posted something, and they got me the Attorney General's office number and the buttons, and I called them, so I know what I need to do. So right now, they just gave me a step ahead, because now I know exactly who I need to call, where, Chelan, no, not Chelan County, Olympia. And so it was really appreciative.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna go to our next caller here, or log in here, but I want to thank you, Alexis, and for definitely logging in tonight. And I'll be in contact with you, I'm sure.
For sure. Yes.
Yeah, it looks like I'm breaking up still just a little bit there with you here. I'm going to go ahead and hit remove there for you, and I will definitely be in contact with her a little bit later on. Let's go on here to our next one, and I'm not sure who this is. This is Samsung Galaxy 7. So I'm not sure who this. Oh, okay, this is Cher. Cher, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing okay. How about you guys?
Doing good.
Tired?
Yes, it's been a heck of a week, and we haven't really even had a chance to talk, which is unusual for us. We always usually talk before we go on, but it's just been such a hectic week, and I thought it was a very good idea to bring people on to talk about, if you could say anything to your child, what would it be and why? and,
Well,
That includes grandchildren.
and grandchildren.
yeah, grandchildren, and of course my child, which is my son. But it would be, don't ever give up the principles in which your father, which is my son, raised them by. And they have fought by recorded audio within supervised visits against the corruption, against the mind altering techniques in which they were subjected to. They fought that. They fought it very, very hard for years on recorded audio. So I would tell them, don't give up. Dad is still trying, and he will prevail. That's what I would tell them. The Missouri Supreme Court, in the latest decision, came down with only a clerk's decision. A clerk's decision. That's it. The Missouri Supreme Court justices did not want to put their name on the decision that just came down. Not one Supreme Court justice signed anything.
Okay, so okay, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it's my understanding that if the clerk of the court signs the paperwork, it's not valid unless a judge signs the paperwork. Is that correct?
That's what you would think. However, in Missouri, a clerk signed the paperwork, signed the decision. No Missouri Supreme Court justice would sign their name on the decision in Lagares.
Okay.
Not one.
So, here's the thing. Okay, judges get paid to be judges. They're elected officials. Some of them are appointed officials. And if it's on the Supreme Court, I'm assuming that it's elected official. If it's an elected official and they have gone to school to be a lawyer, they've gone to school to learn law and how to apply law to a case, why is the clerk of the court, who's uneducated and has no idea his backside from a hole in the ground when it comes to most law, why would they be deciding that decision?
That's my question. We don't have any Missouri Supreme Court justices signing the decision in Lagares v. Rollins, or Lagares, or whatever they want to call it. We do not have that.
Right.
Nothing. That, and my opinion, which is worth whatever, but because we have Supreme Court justices that have a conflict of interest in the case, which did not recuse themselves, and they actually know that the separation of powers issue in which Lagares my son brought to their lab with documented evidence is going to go to the United States Supreme Court. They know that. They're very well aware of that. And so they did not want to sign their name on a dismissal by any means. So they had their clerk of court to sign the dismissal. It's very bizarre that a clerk of the Missouri Supreme Court signs the order. Very bizarre.
Yeah.
It specifically states that the court made this decision, but it does not state which justices made this decision. Now, we also know that one of the Supreme Court for Missouri justices ruled in favor of Laguerre v. Camdenton, which was a case in which I won years ago. Then she became appointed to the Missouri Supreme Court, would have a conflict of interest, basically, if she ruled on the case. We also know that Justice Powell, which it was appointed by a Republican to the Supreme Court of Missouri, and is married to a Democrat that was a federal district judge in our RICO case, which uses the maiden name, so that nobody really knows who that is, would also have a conflict of interest, because Justice Powell, Missouri Supreme Court Justice, would also have a conflict of interest.
Right.
So we have two that basically would perhaps have a conflict of interest. So we have a decision signed by just a clerk. That's it.
Right.
Just a clerk.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense to me because, okay, let's say, for instance, if you were charged with, let's say you were charged with murder, correct? Okay, you went before the judge, and the judge doesn't say much of anything, and the ruling comes down, and suddenly the clerk of the court comes out and reads the decision as guilty. What? Really? I mean, so you're saying that a clerk of the court can find someone guilty or innocent without even being inside of the courtroom and hearing the arguments in the case, and knowing exactly what is going on in the case. Now the clerk of the court is coming down with a decision. No, that's not how it works, and that really is grounds for an automatic appeal anywhere else. But now that you're already in the Supreme Court, now you've got to go to the federal Supreme Court, obviously.
Correct.
Just amazing. I've seen the corruption so badly already, but I keep learning more and more and more each day that just absolutely shocks me, to where it's just like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These are corrupt courts. They're trying to cover their backside, and they're not even doing it well.
They're not. And when someone investigates them, as which I have, and we have Justice Powell, Missouri Supreme Court, appointed by Republican, his wife appointed by Democrat Obama into the federal appellate court, and both of those individuals have sat on Laguerre's case. We have a big issue.
Right.
And then we have so many justices that have been involved personally in a Laguerre's case. So many. Even the last federal district judge was a personal lawyer before he was appointed in the federal district court by Obama, was a personal lawyer of a individual in which I sued his family. I sued his
We have a
family.
question on the panel.
Yeah, go ahead, and let's. I know that there was a question on the panel that someone wanted to get out. So, Rosemary, if you could read that off.
I'm getting there. Hold on. It says, wouldn't the clerk making that choice be in violation to a person's right to having a fair trial?
I'm going to say absolutely. There's not a fair trial if the clerk of the court is making a decision in which they don't even know in any argument. They're not certified to be a judge. There's never been an election.
They shouldn't have the authority to make those decisions.
No, they don't. They don't have that authority. And we've seen it quite a few times, even in the state of Illinois, where here, and I'll tell you this right off the bat, I can tell you this for a fact. I've seen several bits of paperwork where someone has filed for an appeal, and the appeals clerk of the court has sent the file back saying that the original judge rejected the appeal. You can't reject the appeal if you're the original judge. Only the judge of the appeals court can reject the appeal. So we've got a whole lot of conflict. Yep. There's just a whole lot of conflict of interest that's going on.
The problem in Missouri is that Justice Powell, which wrote the family law protocol, if you will, the pro se litigant stuff, all of the family law stuff, he wrote that.
Mhm.
He actually wrote it. And then when
legislation here.
Absolutely. And when all of that stuff was brought to the Missouri Supreme Court, put in their laps with documented evidence of the corruption, with documented evidence, and it was all submitted into the Missouri Supreme Court, that judges in the 26th district violated every single thing that Powell had written. Even the pro se litigant class that all pro se litigants are required in the state of Missouri to take, all of that information.
It's called a litigation awareness course.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Rosemary.
It's called a litigation awareness course. I just took one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Litigation awareness course.
Yeah. And of course, that's a farce. Of course, that's a farce in the state of Missouri, because when a litigant, and it actually states that in their local rules and their rules of procedure, that no case can go to trial until someone takes that.
Well,
And
I think it's an oxymoron right there when you're looking at it. Litigation awareness course. So what, you're aware that someone's litigating against you? I mean, really?
It's a farce. And because, you know, it specifically states, if you don't take this class, you cannot proceed to trial. But yet, when that was
Is that a course?
to Justice Powell attention, which he wrote this, all of this litigation type stuff, when this was brought to his attention, that in fact the case could not proceed to trial if a pro se litigant did not take this course, it was ignored. And then we have a clerk that writes a decision, just denied. The court denied. Who the hell is the court?
Yeah.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Who
I mean,
the hell is the court that the clerk just wrote this decision?
Yeah.
She signed
It is. I got it on paper right here. What it's actually called? It's called a litigants awareness program, and they give you a completion certificate. And if you don't have that with a certificate number on it, you can't proceed pro se.
That's right. But yet Dennis, my son, did. And yet they ignore the fact that he didn't take that course, but yet they proceeded to trial anyway. So it doesn't matter, actually. And
Right.
Justice Powell, he knows that. He definitely knows it.
Yeah, so what we've got here is that now they're making you in the state of Missouri take a litigation awareness course in order
It's a program.
be a program. You got to take a program.
It's a program. I just pulled the paperwork out. I have my certificate.
Program, course, whatever, you know, it's the same thing. But what I'm saying is you've got to take this, and if you don't take this, you can't proceed as a pro se, which defeats the whole purpose of informa pauperis, because you are too broke in order to pay a child support fee. That's just absolutely asinine in the first place. And so then they incarcerate you because you can't represent yourself and you can't hire an attorney. So now what's the case? It's just you are guilty, period.
It depends who you are, whether or not they recognize this program before you proceed to trial. Like in my son's case, he proceeded pro se because he had to relieve his attorney, right? Because of the judge was referring him clients in a text message in which he sent my son. So he relieved his attorney, went on and acted pro se. Nobody said you can't act pro se until you take this course, even though it's the state policy. And so he did. And then they said, oh, well, we're not going to really pay attention to that, even though it is the state procedural guidelines that you cannot proceed pro se unless you take this course.
So basically they were just under the presumption that he had already taken that course without actually taking it.
Well, that's what they tried to.
Which tells me that the clerk of the court originally didn't do their job in finding out, was that documentation of the course actually in his documentation before the court in the first place.
That's right.
Yeah, it tells you right in the paperwork. In the paperwork, when they give you the paperwork, when you go in, say for instance, to file for a divorce, you want to be pro se. The first words of the papers that they give you out of the law library, if you're smart, you get it printed out. I'll read it to the petitioner's dissolution of marriage. Instructions, petitioner's dissolution of marriage forms, introduction. These forms are available to you at no cost on Representing Yourself website. Some courts may provide paper copies of these forms for a fee. Only a lawyer may charge you for a fee for preparing these forms. You are required to complete a litigant awareness program on selfrepresent.mo.gov before preparing these forms. Your local court may also have other educational programs available to help you in the preparation of these forms. It's the first paragraph when you start filling out the paperwork.
Our local court rules, it specifically states you cannot proceed to trial unless you take this course. But yet they do that.
So basically they're saying, okay, you, the American citizen, are too stupid to represent yourself, so you need to take a course and let us teach you how to represent yourself, in which you'll lose anyways because we taught you how to lose.
Right. Exactly. And we're not going to pay any attention to that in which we have applied if you don't do it. That's what they're doing. It's a double-edged sword. Right. And if anyone has ever went through that course, it's a farce. It is literally a farce in what they
it's stupid
and what is actually applicable in the court system. So basically they're saying you don't have the right to represent yourself in a court of law unless you take this course. And then when you don't take the course and you do represent yourself, they say, too bad. Too bad.
Too bad.
You didn't follow the rules, so we don't have to hear your case.
Yeah, because because you, the American public, are too stupid to represent yourself, I guess. Evidently now. Now the government is telling you that you're too stupid. What is this, Nazi Germany? Really? I mean, or have we
I'm just figuring I show you. I have the forms and I read it to you. What it says, the very first paragraph, when you go into the dissolution of marriage, it tells you right there, you cannot proceed these forms until you take that course, period. You don't have that certificate,
and
will not accept your form.
Justice Powell on the Missouri Supreme Court was very instrumental. When you go back and you do the research on writing this, and they discussed the disadvantage of the pro se litigant versus the skilled attorney, right? He went back, he discussed all this, he wrote all of this, he was very instrumental in it. But then when you bring it in front of him, which he's sitting on the Missouri Supreme Court now, he said, oh, well, we're just going to let the clerk write the order of the court. What the hell is that?
Yeah. To me, this is becoming a family court situation in which everything that has come before the court now is starting to become prima facie, which means basically that you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent with documentation.
Yep. That's exactly how these courts are. You are presumed guilty before you are innocent. You have to prove beyond a shadow of doubt you're innocent or you're guilty.
Yes.
You lose your kids. That's how it is. You're automatically at fault. You did something wrong, even though you didn't do anything wrong, and automatically you're the bad parent.
Which is
So that's the kids.
yeah. I mean, it's basically like what is happening in the family court and has been happening in the family court for decades on prima
I'll put the
facie
best
evidence with
example.
contempt. Contempt has always been that way.
The best example to explain this, the way I listened to it for all these people that have been through for Nazi Germany, the Nazi occupants, is before Holocaust. This is what they did. They stripped the parents of the children. They took the disabled children. And what they did with those disabled children, they sold them, they put them in slavery, and they killed them. If those children had illnesses, they killed them. They got rid of them. They were a burden. And that's what they did in the during the Nazi occupants. My grandmother escaped that. So she came into the United States in 1929, my dad's side. She came from Hamburg, Germany. She had polio. She was born with polio. So what do you think they're going to do with her being a Jew German?
Oh,
She's
yeah.
Jewish.
I mean, it's the same thing.
1929. So
Yeah,
she had escaped to the Americas. Now, they were stealing children back then and tearing families apart beforehand. This is exactly what they did through the courts. They stole the children back in 1929, 1927, before the Holocaust. And then the Holocaust happened. Everybody's talking about the FEMA camps. What do you think is going to happen next? Really? Come on, people, wake up.
I mean, yeah, that's basically what we're amounting to. And I would hate to label this as anything less than the liberal agenda right now, but it really is the liberal agenda.
Right.
And it's unfortunate that we have a society that cannot wake up to propagandizing either politics or disillusions of the truth. I mean, you're just delusional.
Right. It's psychological warfare.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Tear the family unit up.
And tell me, and I saw, and Jay, I'm sure you can attest to this. You know, I saw so much psychological warfare on Cass Jackson in Illinois, and I'm still seeing that. And I have a degree in psych, okay, which 99% of the psych shit is bullshit. It really is. Okay.
That legal abuse syndrome is real.
Nothing provable. It's all subjective. It's all opinion, right? It's all opinion. They use psychological warfare to win wars. That's what they do.
Exactly. And what do you think they're doing to the families? They're tearing apart. It's psychological warfare. When you tear the family unit apart, you're tearing them all apart. What happens? You're breaking the parents. You're breaking the family up. You break the family up, you break their culture. You break everything that means well. And they put them in a different culture. They take these children, they isolate them away from their families, their culture, what they're brought up in. They forget their history. They don't know where they belong. And now you got sheeple. It's how they keep them blinded. It's how they keep them under control. So you want to keep being a government sheep, or do you want to help us figure out how to fix the problem? That should be the question.
And I thought that was a very important part of this Lisa Ling interview that I wanted to kind of touch on, because I know Lisa is a very good journalist. I know that she has a very great background. That she's done reporting from anywhere from Oprah to CNN to you name it. She's done it. But here's the case for me. We all know that she is a feminist. She does highly support the feminist agenda, and that's fine, because what we did see when she interviewed Jake.
I don't see the feminist movement as fine. How can a woman go out and march with a vagina on their head?
On their head.
Say that's
That's
okay.
Yeah.
disrespectful.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
yeah.
I don't see that as fine. I don't
Yeah.
see that as fine at all.
Well, yeah, and I get that. I get that, and I'll
Women
I'll
that
reach
should
that.
be feminists. The
Yeah.
true meaning of a woman that's a feminist is a strong-minded woman. A
Right.
woman that can take her part and take her role. A woman that can do just as much as a man can and more. A true feminist will stand by and not belittle a man. She will
Right.
sit there and guide him to make him just as strong as she is. That's a true feminist.
Right.
Feminists are leaders. That's
Right.
what they are. And if people claim to be a
That's right.
feminist when they wear vaginas on their head, that's not a feminist. That's a joke.
No, absolutely. You're right. You're right, Rosemary. These feminists that go out and are paid to march around with a vagina on their head really make me so sick.
Mhm.
If
Yeah,
you
and-
True
watch-
definition of a feminist, think about the Amazon women.
Mhm. Right. And here's
That
the
is
thing
a
for me.
feminist.
Here's the thing for me though is what we did actually see was a real showing of a changing of how Lisa felt about men being deprived of their right to their child just as much as a woman would be deprived of her right to the child. And I thought that went a long way because you could see it and you could feel that she had started to change her opinion, because I think when she came into this interview, she was going to come into it to blast this as a crazy social reform movement type of issue. But when she really felt and truly saw what was going on and that men were actually being deprived of their children that really want to be with them, I think that it really did change her appearance. And I think for her, unfortunately for her, she got to swallow the red pill.
I'm going to be frank honest with you, Jay. There's real feminists out there that believe in equality.
Mhm.
Feminists are not like what's been portrayed out there. They're not. And Lisa may be a feminist, but she's not what's been portrayed out there.
Right.
Women that are feminists, real women that are truly feminist, they believe in equality. Women feel that they're divine. They create life. They believe that they should be honored and respected. Those are the true meanings of feminists. Have you ever seen an Amazon woman, the Amazon tribes?
Mhm.
Those women believe in men are to be mated with. They produce sons. The sons go to the men. The girls stay with the women. That's how it is. Women bring women up. Men bring sons up. That's how feminists are. It's an equality thing. They don't live together. They have their own separate lives. A true feminist is just like that. They don't go and acting and behaving like they have nonsense. They don't act like they're beyond a man. A man they need a man to produce the seed. They have to have a man to carry an heir. They can't produce their heirs without a man. They know this. So they like to share equal, but they believe very strongly they're just as equal as a man, and a man's not beneath them, but they're not beneath a man either.
Right.
And
And
they're
I
strong.
think that's the same aspect that we talk about is that we feel in this movement when we're hurting and we're feeling like we're betrayed in some way, shape, or form. You have the men who socially reform themselves to become MGTOW or MGTOW, and then we have the women who go totally off to the left-hand side of being feminists, where it's
That
blast the
PTSD.
men. So it's blast back and forth, and it's really out of the hurt that they felt in their relationship rather than the real opinion is the fact that they have generalized society so much to think that if I went through this relationship and this guy was this bad to me, all guys are this bad. And
Exactly.
the same with women. If this woman treated me this way and it was absolutely awful, then all women must be that way. And it's just not the case. You're generalizing all of society by doing that. And it's not
Exactly.
fair.
The why I'm going on the feminist thing is people don't understand it. Because but I'm gonna tell you like it is. Even Cher knows. Cher knows me. I'm very much a feminist. But I believe in equality.
Right.
I believe in humanity. And I believe my children are very important to me. and I have sons, and I would want no woman to hurt my babies. So why would I treat any other man any different? I would want them to respect women. I would want them to cherish them, protect them, provide for them, do what they're supposed to do. My job as a mother is to make sure my sons treat a woman correctly. But also my job as a mother is make sure their women treat them just as correctly. They don't have the right to hit on my sons, or they will deal with me. Because a woman is not beneath a man, but she's also not above a man. Women are supposed to be strong. Women are supposed to carry the burden of a man, because a man to me are weak. And that's the way I look at them. That's a true feminist. But I also am willing to work equality. I'm also willing to work side by side with a man, and I'm willing to co-parent for the best interest of my family. So what makes me different aside for the rest of them? And Cheryl will tell you, I'm very much a feminist.
And here's where Rosemary and I may disagree a little bit, you know, by experience or whatever. But after my marriage with my husband, as long as I've been, and all of those kind of things, you know, I believe behind a lot of strong men is a really strong woman.
Exactly. I have to agree with you on that. That's where I strongly believe.
So, you know, our men, it is history, you know, is proved, are where the women's rights actually come from.
Exactly.
Right. Well, yeah, you're very right, because you look at Roosevelt. I mean, Roosevelt was a great president, but guess what? Eleanor Roosevelt was there all of the time behind the scenes, pushing him along the entire way.
Absolutely.
Exactly. For every great man out there, there's a greater woman behind that man.
That's right.
That's the way it is.
Well, I mean, as far as greater, I don't know greater, but I would say as equal. I would say this. I would say this. And the reason that I say this is because if you picture yourself and you picture yourself in a romantic relationship and you're walking along the beach, is your woman holding hands with you and walking behind you, or is she walking side by side with you?
Side by side.
Walking side by side. And
when
that's
I
how
say greater means a woman takes emotional burden a lot more, and she holds that. She carries it for that man where a man can't. Men go and they get angry, they get bitter, they blow up. But a woman can carry that with grace, and she carries it. So when there's a strong man, there's even a stronger woman, because she's carrying his burden.
Oh yeah.
She's carrying it.
That I agree with. I agree that there's a lot of women out there that do carry that burden for the man, where he really does want to explode, but he looks over and he says, can't do it because my wife's right here and I'm not going to do that in front of her. It's not gonna happen.
Exactly. So when there's a great man, there's always a greater woman, because she's carrying not only her own burden, her children's burden, but she carries her man's burden too. Exactly. And that's what I mean greater. It's not meaning more authoritative or anything like that. It's the burdens, the emotional burdens that are carried.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that there also is the reverse sometimes in relationships, where maybe the man is carrying the burden because the woman is out there more. It just really depends on the situation. I think that our society is changing so fastly. You know, it used to be that, you know, men were the ones that were the primary provider, but there's come a time now that the women sometimes have to be the primary provider because their
roles are starting to change.
Yeah.
That's what's happening, is roles are starting to change.
So just for instance, I mean, we had a really, really strong candidate in Missouri, Sandra McDowell. Really strong statewide candidate for the GOP. And her husband stands behind her, you know, and supports her and does what he does for her, you know. And there are a lot of men that do that now. Yes. They do.
Now. They didn't do that 20 years ago.
They really do. And,
but they do.
And I applaud them for that, you know. And there's a lot more men. Years ago, men didn't go into birthing rooms with their wives, all of that kind of stuff. They didn't do it, but now they do. And so, the roles have kind of changed a little bit, but in reality, still behind every great man is a strong woman.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's the way it
I don't deny that one bit, because there are some really strong women that carry that burden for men. I know that, we were trying to get a whole lot of people to come on tonight, but I know that there's a whole lot of people out there in Springfield. And so our best of luck out there to Springfield. There's a lot going on out there. Mark Ludwood, I know he is doing a great job. But it's very interesting when we see some of the programs like this last Lisa Ling, and in comparison to some of the things that Mark is doing out there. I think that there's somewhat of a different aspect too. When you're talking about Americans for Equal Share Parenting, or you're talking about any of those organizations, and then you're talking about reality. Sometimes reality is sometimes co-parenting does not work. Sometimes
You're right.
Sometimes there is domestic violence, and I know that there's a presumption rebuttal in there for every single bill, and I try and bring that out to everyone.
But if you can co-parent, if you can do it, suck up your pride and do the best interest of your children. The very best interest for your children is to co-parent. That is the best option.
Right.
Better than just shared parenting.
But Rosemary, is Jay, and I'm sure they use the silver bullet every chance they can get against a man. And it really disgusts me, because they use that every chance they get. And they do not even include support, love, and caring, and the man's ability to parent the child. They don't even include that. They don't even include that as support for the child at all. It's only money, and that pisses me off. And
children need more than just money.
And in Missouri, hopefully now we're getting that recognized. Hopefully now in Missouri, I'm not sure, but hopefully now in Missouri, that's getting recognized. I mean, they will suspend a man's license to be able to work, let's say, for instance, his CDL.
They also go and get orders to take back child support out of their check, like $300. Then they take their child support, which is another $386. So they're taking $700 out of their monthly checks, and they only make $11 an hour.
Right.
Yeah, so if they only make $11 an hour, they're taking well over half their paycheck for the month. How the heck survive?
Or the dad is disabled or whatever, and they just move forward constantly to demonize the man and weaken the family structure. It's disgusting.
What my doozy is, the one thing I get really perturbed the most about these courts is not only will they sock the man with high robbery of child support, but they deny the man any kind of visitation to see the child. Yep. And they deny him every right possible. They can't even see their child be born. Be 10 years without that child. Wait 7 years before they even charge that father child support. And then after 7 years, they say, "Oh, now you have to owe back child support. You owe $8,000 some odd dollars since the time the child's been born. Now you got to pay. Yet you ain't never seen this child. You have no bonds or ties to that child."
Seriously? Yeah. Statistic just came out this past week. $58 a day it costs Missouri taxpayers to incarcerate a father that for some reason could not pay the child support, right? And as it's like $58 a day you're going to incarcerate and pay for this. It's disgusting.
Right.
Yep.
Well, here's the bad thing about this. Number one, they take your professional license where they take your driver's license. Then the next thing they do is they'll incarcerate you, like it's a debtor's prison. Debtor's
Yes.
prisons were outlawed over 100 years ago. It's ridiculous. Number one. But the other thing about it is, okay, the state is paying, like you said, the state is paying to incarcerate these people. Now you throw on top of that, none of the child support is being paid while they're in jail, which means now they're
Children are
owing
suffering.
still in the child support. So the children aren't being taken care of with that money because they're not getting that money. So then on top of that, you add the Bradley Amendment, which gives you basically is like meaning that if you're behind on child support, it's like having a credit card with 95%. Well, I wouldn't say 95. I think it's 41 right now, 41% financing on top of that. So you will never get caught up on your arrears if you owe more than $30,000. And
Right.
if you're making $11 an hour, you're never going to get caught up. Never.
Right.
No,
And you're-
not.
And then Jay, if you add the slogan, deadbeat dad, the hate slogan, and I truly believe that's a hate slogan.
It is.
Tack on any dad, deadbeat dad. Are you serious? That they are allowed out in public, anyone, to use that horrific term, deadbeat dad. Are you
I was called a deadbeat dad in front of actually a judge called me that, and along with every other curse word in the book. And
that should be a hate
So,
crime. That
it
that
should be.
I agree.
literally be a hate crime.
It should be. It should be, especially since I'm disabled.
Well, I'm
but
sorry, Jay.
know.
You do have a feminist standing up for men, see?
hey, and that's why I say when anyone else in this movement comes out and they say anything about me, it doesn't faze me, because I've been in front of my ex and been called by a judge every name of the book. So everything you say does not faze me. It just doesn't. I don't care.
I don't criticize men. I think women need men as much as men need women, and we can't procreate without each other. And when people want babies, I wanted kids, and I got 5 of them. I believe it takes a mother and a father to raise them successfully. So without both parents, how can you raise successful, young, respectful young men and women into this world that are responsible if you don't have mom and dad? I don't see it happening. I've seen too many breakup.
And then when you have judges or lawyers or the media or anybody out there calling a dad a derogatory term, just like using the N-word. Oh my God, you use the N-word, you're done, right?
They do
But
the same
they
thing with
can
moms
say-
nowadays too, and it's
Right.
disgusting.
They can say the term deadbeat dad. Are you kidding me? That's a derogatory term against males, period. Derogatory.
Yeah. And it has
It's a hate crime.
been for a long time. But yeah, Rosemary's right as well. I've heard the term take a
Deadbeat
evolution
mom.
into deadbeat mom. Yeah, I've heard that a couple times. Yeah, and
And
I
it's
think
not
both of them.
that these moms are deadbeats, it's they're prevented.
Mhm.
They don't know. They don't know their rights. They don't know what they're doing because they're lost. I mean, when you're set and told you have to pay child support, but you can't see your kid, why should you pay for a child you can't see?
Exactly.
If you can't have that right with that child to be able to bond with that child to make sure that child has everything it needs, why should you have to pay for it?
Well, yeah,
If you
and
don't want that other parent to have that any contact with that child, you don't deserve that money.
Mhm.
That's simple as that. If
Yeah,
you're not
and
going to let them help you raise them,
I've kind of described it in this way. Child support to me is like walking into a fantastic, one of your favorite steak restaurants in the entire world. You walk in there, you order the meal that you absolutely love. Let's say you love a sirloin steak, you love it medium well, and you want a baked potato with butter and sour cream and everything, and you've got your drink and you're all set up, and that's what you want. And so you tell the waiter, they go back, they go ahead and they bring out your order, but they walk right by you and give it to the table to the side of you, and then they come back and hand you the check.
Yes.
That's what child support
Absolutely.
is. You get to watch your kids grow up in someone else's arms.
That's
and
right.
you get to pay the bill for it.
In a distance where you can't see them. Sometimes you don't even get to watch them. You don't even know if the child's alive, never seen them be born. And you get stuck paying child support on a child you ain't never even met.
And not only that, the court allows and the court actually enjoins in stating horrible things about the father. And I understand it does happen with moms, but it happens more so with deadbeat dads. That's been going on for
60% on fathers and 30% on mothers.
Right. Yeah. I think the latest statistic that I heard right now is 80% of fathers are losing custody. Now, I don't know that that's a complete accurate number one way or the other. I've heard 73%. I've heard more. I've heard less. It really depends on who's taking those statistics, but really they're too high one way or the other.
Well, see, the way I'm seeing it is about 60% of the cases that they called fathers deadbeats. 30% of the cases they're calling deadbeat moms. Moms don't get labeled as much as dads do. And then you got like 10% that they don't label them at all.
Right.
It's a very small skim.
Why is it okay to use that gender slur against any mother or father? Why is it okay to use a gender slur in a courtroom ever?
Well, here's what I would say. Here's what I would say.
Slur,
right. There are some real deadbeat dads. There are some real deadbeat moms that don't want to be in their kids' lives, or dads that don't want to be in their child's life, and they're not paying child support and don't want to have anything to do with the child. Yeah, I can agree that those are deadbeats. They don't want to have
terminate their rights so somebody else can have them.
Exactly. Well, that's what they should do, but a lot of them don't. Reason being is a lot of these courts now have it mandated to where even if you sign over your rights to your child to the other parent, you're still responsible for child support. You're still responsible for child support. A lot of these courts do. So the fact that you can sign away your kids,
modify and terminate the child support and then terminate your rights. If you don't terminate the child support before you terminate your rights, you're stuck paying child support on a child that you terminated your rights to. It's a very tricky situation that nobody ever tells you. If you want to terminate your rights, it doesn't mean you're going to stop the child support. You actually have to go in before the judge with a modification, say, I'm going to terminate my parental rights, but I must have terminate this child support first. And then as soon as that gets terminated, then you put the termination papers in to terminate your rights.
But that's just legal stuff. That's just lawyer bullshit, in my opinion. That's all it is. They continue to not allow you visitation with your child, period, or what they call visitation. They restrict your rights to the child so long, then they come back and go, okay, well, and they raise your child support so high, then they come back and go, okay, well, you didn't pay the child support, so now if you'll go ahead and sign over your rights to so-and-so, whoever that may be, social services, the state, or a step-parent, then they move forward with that. That's what they do. They force you to either pay up financially, go to jail, sign off your rights, or in a lot of cases, they have moms and dads in 3 different courts at one time. They have them in family law court, they have them in juvenile court, and then they trump up some kind of bullshit criminal charge against a parent. All without due process, right? All without due process of law. And so they get you to do what they want you to do in the end game.
And what they do is they put so much emotional and financial strain on you to where you have no other recourse but to bow out one way or the other.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
and
And
it's
they've done it to mothers. I watched a case right here in my local circuit. I watched them do it to a mother. They had her in 3 different courts at one time.
yeah,
And
yeah.
all of it was bullshit. All of it was bullshit. They had her in family court first with her ex, right? The father of the children, because she would not give up. And her ex was convicted, a convicted felon of domestic violence, and he had shot her in the back and all of this, right?
Mhm.
And so they had her in custody modification court. Then they brought her into juvenile court to try to terminate rights. Then they tried to bring her into criminal court. Okay, 3 different courts at one time. I watched it. I saw it. I was in her case from the very beginning. I found this mom with her son in a corner in the courtroom, in the court corridor, crying. I found her crying. I watched the case. I was involved in her case from the very beginning. She would not cop to their criminal charge. She would not cop to their juvenile charge. What she ended up copping to was giving her ex custody of her children. That's
Yeah.
what they forced her to do. They dropped the criminal charges. They dropped the TPR, termination of parental rights, once she
Right.
gave her ex the custody of the children.
Yep.
Because they
And that
knew
happens.
that it
That
was all
happens a lot.
bullshit.
Yeah, it happens a
Yeah.
lot, and I know someone right now for a simple fact. I know someone right now that because they had went through the gambit and went through probate courts and all of this other crazy nonsense back and forth, and the child had run away because the child was being beat by the dad, and the mom was told by the sheriff to come and pick up the child, and then they wanted
Hey,
to
I remember
hold
that
the mom
case.
in contempt, and then now it's a criminal issue, and the mom is being told she has to wear a freaking ankle bracelet, even though she can go wherever she wants to go. And it doesn't matter if she's in a complete bad area doing a bad thing. It doesn't really necessarily matter, but she got an ankle bracelet on because it's just the fact that they want to get to her mentally to say,
Yep.
hey, you're a warden of the state. We're going to put you under this suppression. It's crap. It's crap, and it's all crap that they put on you to mentally break you down into a situation until you give up.
Yes,
That's
it's psychological
all it is.
warfare.
That's all it is. You're right. Absolutely 100%. That's all it is they are trying to break you down emotionally, physically, psychologically, and financially. And if they can break you down in one of those ways, or they see that they can hurt you in one of those ways, that's what they're going to concentrate on. So if you go to court and financially they're completely decimating you, and you're in the court and you're upset and you're crying, guess what they're going to harp on? Financially more. They're going to keep coming after you financially because they know they can do it. And they know that that's what's hurting you emotionally. So don't give them any luxury of that. Sit there as if nothing matters to you at all. The world
Blank
does not
face.
matter. Yep. Doesn't matter. Because in the end, it's all crap anyways. And that's the best way to put it. Yeah, you're going to throw me in jail? Okay, well, it's hard. I'm not going to say it's not. But everybody that goes through winning in some way, shape, or form has served some time for not doing anything at all.
And that's why it's so important from the very beginning for people that even become involved in family court to understand how to protect themselves.
Mhm.
You have to record. You have to record your local law enforcement officers. You have to record your social services people. you have to do freedom of information. You have to do, if your state has Sunshine Act, you have to protect yourself.
Call
from
the
the
ombudsman.
beginning.
Make sure you contact the proper authorities reporting things, because the attorney generals, there's all kinds of people to report this to just kind of shake things up. You have the director of family services you can contact as well. Am I right, Sheriff? Really shake things up when they're not doing procedure.
Right.
So there are things you have to know your rights and where you stand off from the very beginning, because if you don't, you're in a lose-lose battle. So you either come off like a lion right off the very get-go, you can't fall apart. You can't lose your grip, because the minute they see your weakness, it's over.
Right.
Yeah, and you can't get upset when you get a letter back either. You can't get upset when you get a letter back. And here's the thing that I've noticed. I see a lot of people who write their congressman or woman. They write, the attorney general of the state. They write, the federal authorities, and they say, hey, look, here's how my rights are being violated for the federal statutes, so on and so forth. And they get a letter back saying, well, we don't handle this issue, or we don't have this jurisdiction. Don't get upset with that. That's just one you've eliminated. That's it.
That's right. And you have to initially, from the very beginning, anytime you're in a conflict in family court, you have to record, you have to keep that, you have to put that in your pocket.
Get a recording device, put it in your pocket. Cameras around your house, keep it recording. Phone on. It doesn't matter. It just record, document, log, dates, times, names, what they said. All that matters. Everything. Document. Documentation is everything. Is that right?
The state attorney general, they're supposed to, at least in Missouri, according to their duties and responsibilities, supposed to represent the people of the state, right? However, when it comes out, they represent the state's interests and not the people of the state. So
they are now the state's attorney.
Well,
the attorney for the state.
Juvenile office handbook. The juvenile office handbook for the deputy juvenile officer. It states in their handbook that they're supposed to look out for the best interest of the child and the parents, and have to protect the child's rights, constitutional rights, as well as the parents' constitutional rights. But they're the ones violating them.
Right.
It states it in your guidelines. They're not supposed to be doing it.
Exactly. And what we need to do about it is hold some of these people to their jobs. And I think that the main thing that we've said and come to the conclusion of is stop this damn voter retention. If you see somebody and they're not doing what they're supposed to do in office, then vote them out. Stop this crap where you're voting the same idiots in office that are giving you the same result. It's absolutely ludicrous, people, when you are out there and you're going to cast a vote.
And that's the kind of protest that we should be doing. We should be out there putting our candidate that we want in office out there and marching their names before elections, and let people know who you want them to vote for, because that's where the change is going to be. We need people that are going to make change. And in order to do that, you have to be nice to lawyers. You got to be nice to people that will write your bills for you. You got to be nice to the candidates that are going to get in office. You can't be mean to these people, because you have to go and face these people. You got to get them working with you, coming and opening the light, opening their eyes to change these laws. Because if we don't get the laws changed, we as an individual can't get laws changed, but we as the people can. There's a big difference.
That's where we
as the people together. That means with those congressmen or House representatives or senators, we have to work with them, because they are we the people too.
But Rosemary, you have to be very careful, as I experienced back in 2001, right? With the false people that will bring false stuff to the floors, right? And they'll lie just to get bills passed. they'll attach shit to the end of a bill that has nothing to do with actually the bill.
Oh, right,
Exactly.
right. That's
Yeah,
the
I mean,
tricks of
trickery.
lawyers.
so
Yeah.
careful.
That's their
Here's
trickery of passing the lobbyists paying their way through and getting what they want inside of a bill. And if it gets passed, especially right before it passes, they slip it in there. So when it gets
right.
passed, is what that lobbyist want, it gets in there.
Exactly, and
The
that's
trick.
the tricks of the lawyers in the American Bar Association. Is what they do is they know that nothing is going to get passed that they put through because the people are going to see through it and they're going to know, right? So they attach a crude, horrible law on top of another bill that they're trying to pass, and they include it in there because, okay, it's like saying, okay, we want to pass universal health care and here's the best way to do it. And yeah, on the back end, every man is going to have to lose custody and blah, blah, blah. That's
Right.
what it's like. And you walk into
That's
there
it.
and it's like,
That's exactly it.
you know, and it's like you really want to pass universal health care, maybe, but you can't do that because if you do that, you're going to have to pass this bill that screws every man in America. It's
If
just
you
not right.
don't believe us, I'll give a challenge to the listeners. Look up the stupid laws that were created in your state.
Oh,
Seriously, just type in stupid laws. There are some states that if a woman wears open toe shoes, they can get flogged. And they're in Michigan, you can't wear regular bathing suits. You have to wear them to your knees. It's against the law there.
Yeah.
In Missouri, you can't have any kind of sex other than missionary style. If you get caught doing anything else, you go to jail. Who's going in your bedroom, in the privacy of your bedroom?
Exactly.
That is the question I have to ask. Who is going to, and it doesn't matter whether you're married or not. So who's coming into my bedroom when it's locked? Not a damn person. So why would they have a
Exactly right.
stupid law like that?
I mean, it's you know, there are several laws that get passed on these backsides of things because some fruitcake got it in their head that I can pass this that is my own personal political agenda by attaching it to a bill that's actually for something good.
Right.
And the main bill is something good.
Do it in the last 3 days of the session. They
Right.
usually do this crap in the last 3 days of session, which when I got the phone call back in the 2000s, when I got that phone call that they had attached repealing the Missouri state statute on educating children in the state of Missouri to an unrelated bill on education that had to deal with discipline, I was like, what the hell do I do with this? Right? So
and a lot of these people, what ends up happening?
Up to the Capitol. I was like the first time I had ever lobbied. And I was like on the Republican side, pulling Democrats, on the Democrat side, asking to talk to Republicans. I didn't know what I was doing at that time.
Right. And that's where a lot of these people don't get it. A lot of these people just don't get it who just recently come into this movement. And they said, well, what have you guys done in the last 30 years? Let me tell you something that they've done in the last 30 years. They put together bills, and then they take these bills, and it could be a very, very good bill where they want 50-50 custody or whatever, and they bring it before the legislature, and the legislature looks at it, and they have a committee that looks at these things, and they switch it up, and they say, yeah, maybe we can do that, but if you give judges all of the consent and all of the rulings and all of this too much overburden on this. And so what ends up happening is you have to vote down your own bill.
Right. And when I found out what they had done, I, with the help of my state rep and some other, people, we had 66 representatives in the state of Missouri sign a petition that they voted for something they didn't know they voted for.
Yeah.
Okay. It was already on the Speaker of the House Democrat desk. And all I knew when I went to Jefferson City, the capital, to inform the legislators on what had just happened to them, I only knew what, there was a little button on their lapel, right? That told me they were state representatives. And so I was going around pleading my case to the state reps in the last few days of session. And I made a grave mistake. I went to the Speaker of the House, which I didn't know he was the Speaker of the House, and I pled my case. This guy acted all kinds of weird and shit, and he started running down the hallway in the state capitol.
Right.
And so I went to my state rep, and I told him what had happened. And he's like, oh my God, that's the Speaker of the House. He's going to sign the bill, right, that we just passed, while we had a petition circulating to revoke what the legislators had just voted for, in which I had 66 reps and many senators sign. And he went and signed the bill, hurried up and presented it to the governor's desk for his signature. While we were doing this, I made a great mistake. I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing, really, And so I learned a whole lot whenever they realized who I was. I was at the Capitol. Once this happened and my name got known, the hallways just went crazy with people that were trying to block the lawsuit and revoke basically the law that I had just won to the Missouri Supreme Court. I had Department of Education lobbyists that were there, Department of Education people that I saw in the hallway that shouldn't even have been there lobbying, and which they were. And it was the most chaotic, scene that you could even imagine. But the Speaker of the House went and signed the bill, immediately put it on the governor's desk, and with it being an election year and all of the pipeline of the, education people and all of that kind of thing, they basically said, well, actually they did in emails, that if this was allowed to stand, the case that I had just won would bankrupt every school in the state of Missouri,
Right.
which was entirely lie. It was a lie.
Right.
The NEA, National Education Association, literally shut down the governor's office with phone calls and emails and all of this kind of stuff, which were total lies.
Right.
And they literally shut down the switchboard. It was the most bizarre thing you ever saw in your life.
Right. Yeah, I absolutely agree here. And I will say that I want to thank you for coming on, because I know we're getting close to time. I want to make sure I make time for everyone if I have anybody else that wants to come on. So here, I want to go ahead and thank you so much for coming on, Cher. We greatly appreciate it. We love you.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. So Shirley Garris, and we're going to open up more here on the opportunity. I know that we've got maybe not yet, but okay, but definitely here's some things.
I have a question for you, Jay.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you didn't get to see your children anymore, what would be the thing that you said to your kids?
If I didn't get to see my children anymore, and I've been in that scenario. I've been in that scenario for 2 years. I was homeless, living on a park bench.
So what would you say to your children, and why?
Okay. What I would say to my children is this, and I've always said this to my kids. how much does daddy love you? And the response always is for my children, always and forever, no matter what. Always has been, always will be. And I taught them this because I wanted them to know, just in case something would happen. Just in case I wasn't around anymore, just in case I had a heart attack or whatever. I wanted them to know that if daddy's no longer around, how does daddy love you? And it's always and forever, no matter what. So that's always been our kind of key little phrase. So I've absolutely enjoyed it immensely, and it really warms my heart to, you know, have those phone calls. Even though when I was homeless, I did get a phone call occasionally where I would be able to call them, and it was the same thing. They never forgot it. And that's kind of what got me through more than anything else. I think the holding the picture in my pocket of them, I think knowing that they would never give up on me is something that really took effect and took hold, because they knew that phrase. They knew that dad loved them always and forever, no matter what. So you know, NM and MM, daddy loves you always and forever, no matter what. So good question. But Rosemary, what would you say to your children if you know, you were no longer able to see them?
Well, I didn't see MK for 17 years.
Yeah.
But what I would say to my kids is to be strong. Remember what I've taught you. To love each other, because that's all you have, each other. And that I love you and adore you more than you could possibly ever know. And that I would give my life for my kids. And that they can always count on me, even if I'm afar. They can always count on me.
Right.
And there's a reason. Michael was, you know, my oldest boy, MK, which is 24 years old now. I didn't have him for 17 years, and I fell apart. And that's all I thought about. How much I loved him, how much I missed him. What could I say to him? What would make a difference? And what I want my kids to know is be strong. You can do this. No matter how hard life gets you, no matter how many times you get thrown down, you pick yourself up and you keep on going, because your mom fought like hell and never stopped fighting. So never give up.
Absolutely.
And that is the biggest thing, you know, because I didn't ever give up. I never gave up.
Yeah. And I agree with you. There's a lot of people out there who are going through this right now. And I know there's, you know, some that haven't seen their children in 17 years, 18 years sometimes. You don't even know what your child looks like anymore. You know?
But you know, I'm going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
When your child finds you, and the last time you saw him was when he was 5 years old. So you have no idea what kind of person they turned into. You don't know what they look like, no nothing. But when your child contacts you, I don't know what it is, but a mom knows. I knew when my son contacted me, that was my son. I knew it. I felt it. Not only did I feel it, it was like my DNA was talking to me. That's my baby. No matter what, I didn't even second guess it. I took my instinct and I knew my son found me. So it was a big deal. No words, no nothing. And the first words out of my mouth to my son after 17 years of not hearing from him or anything else was when he said, "Hey, Rosemary," not "Hey, Mom," "Hey, Rosemary." I said, "Well, hello, son. How are you? I've been looking for you since I lost you." Those were the words I said to my son the very first time he ever found me. And he was like, you know I'm your biological son? I sure do, son. I feel it.
You know,
So,
and
yeah, I had that text message. I have it and how it was responded. So yeah, it was a really big deal, a very emotional one, because this was at midnight and I'm screaming through the house, "He found me, he found me." I woke everybody up. You know, emotional, the whole 9 yards. He found me. My husband thought I was nuts. He said, "You don't know that for sure. Have you even asked him?" "No." "Oh, don't you think you ought to ask him?" You know, I hadn't even responded yet. But I knew, without a beyond a shadow of a doubt, that was my baby. And I knew it.
Yeah.
So a mom knows. I'm telling you, you will know when you find your child. When your child finds you, you will know.
Right.
And they always come looking.
Exactly. And, take it from two people who've been there and know what it's like and not having your child in your life. And they will find you, or you will find them eventually. It just happens. No matter what happens, they cannot keep you two away. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, years of parental alienation could harm that process in some way, shape, or form, but it's eventually going to happen. It's like a moth to a flame. It's one of those things where it's just like you are just attracted, forces of nature, where it's just like there's no other way.
The kid has questions. Why did you get rid of
Yes.
me? Why did you lose me? Why did you walk away from me? How come you weren't in my life? These are the questions that get asked. I mean, that's what my son asked me. And I had to tell him, no, baby, I didn't throw you away. And I had to know all the court papers, all of them. His adopted parents handed him 6 pieces of paper, says, there you go, that's your life. I handed him hundreds and hundreds of papers and said, here you go. I fought tooth and nail. You read, you decide, you tell me what you think.
Exactly.
And then when my son gave him time to process it, let him look through everything freely, I sat there and I waited. I didn't say a word. I waited for him, his response. And then he had his questions answered. I didn't throw him away. And I fought like hell. And he found out that I wasn't this terrible monster they portrayed me to be. Because they told him I was a crackhead and I threw him away and I did drugs, and I didn't ever do drugs. I didn't do any of it. And my documents said it. So yeah, they had me portrayed as this monster, painted me as this monster for him, that he had to go get therapy for 2 months before he even met me.
Wow.
He even contacted me because they had him so terrified of me.
Mm-hmm.
So when he finally found me, my son is with me to this day. My son comes and he calls me every single day. He comes and sees me every chance he gets. He comes to all the family functions. He's 24 years old. And he'll tell you, finding me was one of the best things that ever happened to him. And he loves his mama.
Right.
And he'll tell you that too.
Yeah. And that's what I seem to tell everyone that's going through this, and it's a difficult time. And I see that there's so many people out here within the family law community or family rights community or children's rights community or whatever you want to call it. I see so many people who are so depressed and they go through such heartache and such struggle. And I have to say to them, look, how old is your child? Your child is 4. Okay. You tell me your child is 4, for instance. And I say, guess what? 14 more years from now, you have a light at the end of the tunnel. What you do between now and then makes that light grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And what you have to do is put your foot forward that every day I'm going to learn something new to make that light bigger and stronger. And because I'm telling you that light's coming. It's coming no matter what you do.
It's more than 14 years, because you can't go looking for that child until the child is 21. But the child can come looking for you at 18.
Exactly.
So in 18 years old, you could put something in their file where it makes it easier where they can find you. But you can't have contact until they're 21 unless they find you. The tricks of the trade of the courts, they won't give you any information on where that child's located or anything about them until they're 21 years of age. So after they turn 21, you go head right down to the courthouse and get their exact location. It takes about 12 weeks to get it, but within that 12 weeks, they have to give it to you. It is the law. They can't hide it once they turn 21. And it will say in there, in your papers, as a parent wants you to reach out to them. You put all your information in the file at 18. When they turn 18, and if they're looking for you, they're going to get their court file, and they're going to find that, and they're going to come and looking for you. So you can put your birthday cards in. You can put all kinds of things in that file. You can have a birthday card every year submitted into that file. When that child comes looking for it, there's a card in there every year because you file it. You file it with the court. In that case, you can file it. The child can get every scrap of piece of paper in that file. So you put birthday cards in there, Christmas cards, whatever, and submit it in there. So when that child finally does come looking for you, there's something there saying that child knows that you care.
Right. Not only that, but then you gave me some advice way back as well, is put little breadcrumbs out there all over,
I did.
all over the internet, because your child, whether you know it or not, is searching for you on the internet.
That's
They
right.
are.
My son did. My son went through the entire internet. I was on Twitter, Tumblr, LinkedIn, People Search. I was on Lifeline. I was on everything you could think of. Anywhere somebody might look, I was everywhere. I put my son's picture out there. I'm searching for my son when he was 5 years old. That was the last picture I had. I put it out there everywhere. This is his name. If you know of his whereabouts, please contact me. And I put it out there. Michael, if you're looking for me, I'm here. Find me. And this is where I'm at. And it led him all the way to Facebook. And I linked everything together where he could find me. I had it linked to the yellow pages. I had it linked to the white pages. I had it because he went through the white pages looking for me. He went through all this through Google and all that other stuff. And he followed the breadcrumbs right to Facebook. And he had a picture of me. So he knew what I looked like when I was younger. And I don't look much different than when I was then. So when he seen me, then he started going through my list to see if, is there anything else there? Is the brothers and sisters that were on his picture, their names there? And he found that they were. And he was like, oh God, this is her. So he knew I was his mom. By leaving the breadcrumbs I left him everywhere. You name it, Instagram, everywhere.
And it looks like we've got a guest on here, and I know it's on War on Corruption, so I don't know who this is, but how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Oh, awesome. If there is something out there that you would like to say to your children, what would it be and why?
He's a journalist.
Oh, he's a journalist. Oh, okay. So you're a journalist going through this, or have you actually gone through this with the family court system?
I'm actually a victim of CPS. My whole story with them was I was in a foster system during that time. Rosemary knows a lot about this. I was basically tortured, beaten, pretty much anything you can think of, and the state of Oklahoma covered that up. So years later, I came out with War on Corruption and just started going full throttle against everybody in the government, and then some.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the case, unfortunately, for a lot of kids out there, that they build up this anger and resentment towards the system for oppressing their right to their parents. And unfortunately, or unfortunately for you, though, I will say this, fortunately for you, you've done it in a constructive way. And a lot of kids, unfortunately, do not do it in as a constructive way as you have done. So I applaud that. Is there anything
it's unfortunate.
Is there anything that you would like to say, in reference to what you've experienced in CPS? And okay, I'm gonna rephrase this question for you, because you've gone through this. What would you like to tell those in charge of this system and how it has failed you? What would you like to tell them?
To be trying to think of how to construct that. Well, I guess I'll start out with some advice to the families that are going through that. It's very simple. Don't lose yourself. Don't let the system tear you down. And this is especially for these kids that are going through that, might be listening as well. Don't lose yourself. Don't forget who your families are. Try everything you can in your power to remember them, because the system you guys are going against, their objective is only one thing, and that is to tear your family apart. There are people out there that will help. There are people out there that are on your side, but the system will do everything it can to make you feel alone and isolated. I think that's probably the best advice as far as I can give on being somebody that was in the system.
Right.
And
that's great. That's great. Yeah. Thank
so
you
what
so
would you
much.
tell your captors?
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Tell my captors, thank you for making me stronger by trying to destroy me, because all you did was give yourself a force to go against. And God willing that all these kids that are going through it will be the same way. There'll be something you don't want to go against someday, because we have big mouths and we love to talk.
Yeah, this next generation that's coming up, folks, guess what? We're not just attaching to all of this of us being parents. There are affected children that are going through this that are rising up with us.
That's right.
You know,
My
you
son
are
being one of them, him
Mhm.
being another. I have a lot of people that I've helped that are not just parents. I help the victims, the children of the system.
Exactly. So thank you so much for calling in. We greatly appreciate you here. I'm gonna see if put you on hold here. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can bring in. There was one more caller here, real quick here. See if I can add. Okay, looks like I've got Schultz Madness in here. How are you doing this evening? Hello?
Are they there?
I don't know. Schultz Madness. Are you there? I'm not guessing so. Give it one more opportunity here. Schultz Madness, are you there?
Hello.
Hello? Okay. Well, all right. Well, we'll put them on hold again too. You know, if we bring you on, definitely.
Got him on mute.
Yeah, I've got him. I unmute here. Schultz Madness, are you there? Nope. Okay. Well, I'll hit remove here. All right, but definitely a great show. We got some great stuff, great advice here.
I'm sorry, journalist coming in. I when I seen that title, I know it was a journalist, and I'm not going to reveal his name, but he is a victim of the system.
Yes.
And he is a child from the system. He's an adult now, but I'm not going to reveal names because I believe in confidentiality in the victims. Right. The victims are children that they were innocent. They lost their innocence in the system, and they need people like us to stand by them and help them cope through what they happen. Show them constructive ways to doing what they need to do to get their voice heard. So exactly. I invited him to come talk and just say something.
It was amazing. Actually, it was fantastic. And in the short time we had him on, we're just kind of running out of time. There is one announcement that I said that we were going to make this announcement at the end of the show, okay? 11 a.m. tomorrow. 11 a.m. tomorrow. That's Central Time, okay? Tune in to Facebook, because you're going to be seeing a special episode in which we interview none other than John Schneider. He will be on, and we will be interviewing him. It will be myself and Randy and probably Neil Shelton, three veterans movement, yeah. And we will be interviewing him for about a half an hour, and it should be action-packed. We'll talk about a little bit about where the future of our video or future of our children's video network and normal studio productions will be taking things. And we're leading into a platform in which we're going to not just have one show, but possibly several shows each and every night. So you should be entertained, you should be educated, you should be informed on what exactly going on, and it's going to come from several different sources. We're also going to create a media library where you can go out to, and if there's a specific thing you want to know about, say you want to know about contempt of court, you go out there to the website, you pull up contempt of court, and it's going to give you a video of what you need to know, what will help you in your case.
Exactly.
And it will be person-to-person information, not legal advice. Okay, so
exactly, it's going to give you the know-hows of how we done it, or what you need to know, not legal advice, but how you need to know how to research it, where you'll find the information that you need. It's basically a guide to get you in the right direction.
Exactly. 100%. We're going to work on this a whole lot. There's going to be a whole lot more coming. I know I'm going to be in and out a whole lot more with some things that have taken place in my personal life going back and forth, but we will be getting on this in a way in which we are working and relying and working as a team to get this done. There's going to be a whole lot of us that are working on this. So if you are a lawyer or a paralegal or any of those things that have worked in the family court aspect, we will work with you. We will do whatever we can do because we're out here to help people. We're out here to do it free of charge. We want to do everything we can possibly do to reunite families.
And that is the key word here, people. FREE is won't cost a thing.
No, you're breaking up a little bit there.
Research. I said it's free. FREE.
Yep.
It only takes time to research.
Exactly.
Your time.
Yep. Only takes time, and being that we're gonna have this all in one particular area, it should be very, very fruitful for you. I know, we may even be using some stuff from some other people who have put things out there very successfully to help others. We're going to do whatever we can possibly do to help you learn the system in a way that's constructive and that will help bring your children home and will possibly keep you away from some of the nonsensical things that are not working, that's just bringing some kind of bad press. And so that's our intention, is to bring children home. That's the only intention we have in this movement, is to bring children home.
Help bring children home, help empower parents, become their own advocate to help bring them home. We can't say we're bringing kids home. We are helping them.
Helping them.
We want to empower them with their voice, teaching them how to be their own advocate, because being an advocate is teaching you how to be an advocate.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right, 100%. So we want to thank you all for tuning in again, 11 a.m. tomorrow. Tune in. You will see none other than Bo Duke himself right here live on Facebook. I don't know that you'll be seeing him, but you will be hearing him for sure. You'll be calling in. And we'll be talking with him tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. So make sure you tune in. And as we say each and every week on Talking Normal, keep living, keep fighting, and keep talking normal. Love you guys.
Bless you all.
Hammer down, nailed to the wire, known by the sin of our fathers. Let it all come out and burn like a fire. We'll shout a little bit louder, 'cause the night still has 1,000 eyes. And when the truth is brought to light, you and I will be free, yeah, we'll be through every door, and the stakes get higher. Hard evidence is power. Turn loose a war, trade proof for the liar. We'll shout a little bit louder, 'cause secrets tell a million lies, but the truth is always brought to light. So you and I will be free. to build the walls they hide behind. But the truth is always brought to light, brought to light. Secrets tell a million lies, but the night still has 1,000